Hello everyone! Welcome to my YouTube channel where I share interesting, helpful, and inspiring content on a regular basis. If you're looking for something new, fun, or meaningful to watch, you're definitely in the right place. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join me on this journey. My wife and I met at a friend's barbecue in Charleston when we were both 26. She walked through the gate carrying a bottle of wine and laughing at something her friend had said, and I remember thinking she was the most effortless woman I'd ever seen. Not trying to impress anyone, just genuinely happy. Her name was Jenna. Dark hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We talked for 3 hours straight that night, sitting on the porch steps while the party went on without us. By the end of the evening, I had her number, and a feeling in my chest I'd never experienced before. I'm Grant, 41 years old. I run a cybersecurity consulting firm out of Savannah, Georgia. I started it from nothing after leaving the Army, where I spent 8 years doing signals intelligence. My job, in simple terms, is protecting companies from hackers. But the skill set works both ways. I know how to find information people think is hidden. I know how to trace digital footprints. I know how to make data appear and disappear. These aren't things I ever thought I'd use on my own wife. Jenna and I dated for 2 years and married on a beach in Hilton Head. She was a branch manager at a regional bank, sharp with numbers and good with people. We bought a house on a quiet street in Savannah's historic district, the kind of place with oak trees draped in Spanish moss and neighbors who wave from their porches. We talked about kids constantly. She wanted 2. I wanted 3. We compromised at, let's start with 1 and see. Life felt solid, comfortable, real. For 7 years, our marriage was everything I thought a marriage should be. We traveled, we cooked together on weekends, we had date nights every Thursday, even when neither of us felt like getting dressed. I trusted her completely. Not the naive kind of trust where you just don't think about it, but the earned kind, the kind built on 1,000 small moments of honesty. At least that's what I believed. The cracks appeared 6 months before our 8th anniversary. Jenna started working late 3 or 4 nights a week, which wasn't unusual during audit season, but this wasn't audit season. She began guarding her phone, angling it away when texts came in, taking calls in the other room. I told myself I was imagining things. Paranoia is an occupational hazard in my line of work. You spend all day looking for breaches and deceptions, and eventually you start seeing them everywhere. So I pushed the thoughts aside. Then one night I woke up at 2 in the morning, and she wasn't in bed. I found her sitting on the back porch in the dark, texting. When she heard the door open, she fumbled the phone and nearly dropped it. Just couldn't sleep, she said. Talking to my sister about Mom's birthday. Her sister lives in Portland. It was 11 p.m. there, possible, but her hands were shaking. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions. I'm not the kind of man who dances around a problem hoping it fixes itself. The comment from that viewer was right. The worst thing a man can do when he suspects betrayal is beg for reassurance. It tells the other person they can keep lying because you're too afraid of the answer. Instead, I did what I do for a living. I investigated. It took me 72 hours to confirm what my gut already knew. I cloned her phone remotely using a method I won't detail here, and I set up a mirror of her messages on a secure server only I could access. The texts were with a man named Derek Hollis. He was a loan officer at her bank's corporate office in Atlanta. They'd met at a regional conference 4 months earlier. The messages started flirtatious and escalated quickly. By the time I found them, they were explicit. Photos I wish I could burn from my memory, plans to meet during her next business trip, and one message that nearly put me through the floor. Derek had written, "When are you going to leave him?" And Jenna replied, "After the Cancún trip. I need him to pay for it first. Then I'll figure out the rest. He's clueless. He thinks we're going there to try for a baby." I read that message 3 times. Then I closed my laptop, walked to the bathroom, and threw up. 7 years. 7 years of building something I thought was unbreakable, and she was timing her exit around a vacation I was funding. The Cancún trip was my idea. Our 8th anniversary. I'd booked a luxury resort on the Riviera Maya, all-inclusive, oceanfront suite, the works, $3,000 a night. I'd been planning it for months as a surprise, saving separately so it wouldn't show in our joint account. I wanted it to be the trip where we finally started our family. Now I knew the truth. But here's the thing about discovering a betrayal. You have 2 choices. You can react, which feels good for about 10 seconds before it destroys any leverage you have. Or you can plan. I chose to plan. Over the next 3 weeks, I operated on 2 tracks. The first was emotional survival. I smiled at breakfast. I kissed her goodbye in the morning. I complimented her new dress. I was the perfect husband she thought she was fooling. Every night after she fell asleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling, running scenarios. The second track was preparation. I consulted a divorce attorney under the guise of a hypothetical question for a friend. I learned that Georgia is an equitable distribution state, not community property, and that evidence of adultery can significantly impact alimony and asset division. I began quietly moving liquid assets into accounts she didn't know about. My business was structured under an LLC with a separate operating account, so I transferred funds there under the category of equipment purchases. I documented everything. Screenshots with timestamps. Metadata preserved. Chain of custody maintained as if I were building a federal case. Because in a way, I was. The week before Cancun, Jenna's phone lit up with a text while she was in the shower. I didn't need to check my mirror server. The preview on her lock screen said it plainly. Flight booked. Same resort. Different building. Can't wait to taste you again. I felt nothing. By then I'd burned through my grief and come out the other side into something cold and focused. She wasn't the woman I married anymore. She was a problem to be solved. We flew to Cancun on a Thursday morning. Jenna was bubbly and affectionate at the airport, holding my hand, resting her head on my shoulder. I played along perfectly. When we landed and took the shuttle to the resort, I watched her eyes scanning the lobby, looking for him. She didn't find him, and I saw a flicker of disappointment before she caught herself and smiled at me. Our suite was beautiful. Turquoise water visible from the balcony, a king bed draped in white linen, champagne waiting on ice. I popped the bottle and poured 2 glasses. To us, I said. To our family. She clinked her glass against mine and said, to everything we're going to build. The irony almost made me laugh. That first evening we had dinner at the resort's Italian restaurant. Jenna excused herself to use the restroom twice in 90 minutes. The second time, I checked the mirror server on my phone. She'd texted Derek, he's being so sweet, it's making me sick. Meet me at the pool bar at midnight. He won't stay up that late. Derek replied, I'll be there. Wear that black thing. I didn't stay up that late. Or rather, I pretended not to. At 10:30, I told Jenna I was exhausted from the travel and wanted to crash early so we could make the most of tomorrow. She kissed my forehead and said she might read on the balcony for a while. I went to bed, set a silent alarm for 11:45 and waited. Right on schedule, I heard her moving around the room in the dark, changing clothes, spraying perfume. The door clicked shut at 11:50. I gave her 5 minutes, then I was up. Black shirt, dark jeans, baseball cap. I grabbed my phone and a small directional microphone I'd packed in my carry-on disguised as a portable charger. I'd also brought a compact camera with excellent low-light capability, tools of the trade. I found them at the pool bar within minutes. She was sitting on a stool next to a tall man with sandy hair and a tan that looked like it came from a booth, Derek. His hand was on her thigh. She was leaning into him, laughing, her fingers tracing circles on his forearm. I positioned myself at a corner table partially hidden by a palm arrangement and began recording. Audio and video, crystal clear. They drank for an hour. Then they walked along the beach path toward the east wing of the resort where I assumed his room was. I followed at a distance, recording. They stopped twice to kiss. At his door, she looked both ways before slipping inside. I noted the room number, 214. Then I went back to our suite and sat in the dark. Not because I was devastated I'd already processed that, but because I was finalizing the plan. The next morning, Jenna came back at 5 a.m., slipping into bed smelling like another man's cologne. She fell asleep instantly. I didn't sleep at all. By 7, I was showered, dressed, and ordering room service. When she woke up, I had coffee and fruit waiting. You're the best, she mumbled, still half asleep. You have no idea, I said. I spent that day being the world's most attentive husband. Beach walk, snorkeling, couples massage. All day I watched her check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. All day I smiled. That evening, I told her I'd booked a surprise dinner at an off-resort restaurant in Playa del Carmen, a 20-minute drive. She hesitated, probably because it would cut into her time with Derek, but she couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. During dinner, I ordered her favorite wine and talked about our future. Kids' names, schools, whether we'd get a dog first. She played along, but her eyes kept drifting to her phone. I knew Derek was waiting. Good. Let him wait. We got back to the resort at 10. I told her I'd had too much wine and wanted to lie down. She said she might take a walk along the beach to clear her head. I told her to enjoy the night air. She kissed me and left. This time I didn't follow. I didn't need more footage. I had plenty. Instead, I sat at the desk in our suite and began executing the plan. First, I accessed our joint bank accounts. I transferred $87,000 in savings to my LLC operating account, which she had no visibility into. The transfer would take 24 hours to process, but by then it wouldn't matter. Second, I called my attorney, who was expecting my call despite the hour, and confirmed that the divorce filing would be submitted electronically first thing Monday morning. Third, I accessed Derek's employee profile through a vulnerability I'd identified in his bank's HR portal weeks ago. I didn't hack anything. I simply used information Jenna had inadvertently stored in her cloud backups, his employee ID, his corporate login credentials that she'd saved to help him once with a password reset. With those, I accessed his internal email. What I found there was a gift. Derek wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was also sleeping with a colleague named Vanessa, who happened to be married to the bank's regional vice president. And there was a third woman, a client, which was a direct violation of federal banking ethics regulations. The emails made it clear he'd been using his position to initiate these relationships, leveraging loan approvals as leverage. This wasn't just adultery. This was career-ending, possibly criminal behavior. I downloaded everything, organized it into folders, prepared 3 separate packages, one for the bank's compliance department, one for the regional VP, Vanessa's husband, one for my divorce attorney as evidence. Then I went to bed and slept better than I had in months. The next 3 days in Cancun were theater. I was the loving husband by day, the ghost operator by night. Each evening I'd let Jenna slip away to Derek, and each night I'd refine my plan. On the 4th night, I decided to accelerate things. I told Jenna I wasn't feeling well, something I ate probably, and that I wanted to fly home a day early. She put on a convincing show of concern, offering to come with me, but I insisted she stay and enjoy the rest of the trip. After all, I said, you deserve a vacation, you work so hard. The relief in her eyes was almost imperceptible, but I caught it. She had 2 more days alone with her lover, funded by the husband she was planning to leave. I flew home on Tuesday morning. The moment I landed in Savannah, the chess pieces started moving. My attorney filed the divorce petition, citing adultery, supported by a flash drive containing time-stamped video, audio recordings, text message archives, and metadata analysis proving the duration and nature of the affair. In Georgia, adultery is a bar to alimony. Jenna wouldn't see a dime. While she was still in Cancun with Derek, I went to the house and removed every personal item I cared about. Clothes, documents, my father's watch collection, family photos, my servers and equipment. I rented a storage unit under my company's name and moved everything there in 2 trips. I left her belongings untouched. The house itself was in both our names, but my attorney had already filed a motion for exclusive possession pending the divorce, citing the adultery evidence. By the time she got home, she'd be walking into a half-empty house with a process server waiting on the porch. But I wasn't done. Wednesday morning, I sent the compliance package to the bank's ethics hotline, anonymous, untraceable, routed through 3 VPNs. The package contained Derek's emails with the client he'd been sleeping with, showing a clear quid pro quo between sexual favors and loan approvals. I sent the second package to the regional VP's home address via FedEx, containing printed emails and photos between Derek and Vanessa. I timed the delivery for Thursday afternoon, when I knew the VP would be home, because his calendar, also accessible through the same HR portal, showed he'd taken a personal day. Thursday morning, Jenna called me from the resort. "Hey baby," she said, her voice sweet and oblivious. "My flight gets in tomorrow at 4. Can you pick me up?" I told her I'd be there. I had no intention of being there. Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed with an alert from the Mirror server. Derek had received a call from his bank's HR department requesting an immediate meeting upon his return. An hour later, another alert. Derek received a text from Vanessa. "My husband knows. He found everything. Don't contact me ever again." Then, 20 minutes after that, Derek sent Jenna a frantic message. "Something happened. I think someone sent stuff to my job. Did you tell anyone about us?" Jenna's response was panicked. "What? No? What are you talking about? What stuff?" I watched their conversation unravel in real time. It was like watching 2 rats in a maze realizing the walls were closing in. Derek accused Jenna of leaking information. Jenna accused Derek of being careless. Within an hour, they were arguing viciously, each blaming the other for the exposure. Their love affair, it turned out, couldn't survive the first real pressure test. Friday morning, Jenna texted me, landing at 4:15. "Can't wait to see you." Still performing. Still pretending. I replied, "Drive safe from the airport. I'll be home by 6. I was already in my new apartment across town, sitting in an empty living room with a glass of bourbon, watching the clock. At 4:47 p.m., the process server I'd hired confirmed delivery. He caught her in the driveway, still pulling her suitcase from the trunk. "Ma'am, are you Jenna Caldwell?" She said yes. He handed her the envelope. "You've been served. Have a good evening." She called me 11 times in the next hour. I answered on the 12th. "What is this, Grant? What the hell is this?" Her voice was shaking, but it wasn't sadness. It was fury. She was angry at me for catching her. "That's a divorce petition," I said calmly. "You'll want to read it carefully, especially the section on adultery. The evidence is comprehensive. There was a long silence. Then her tone shifted to something softer, more desperate. "Baby, please, whatever you think happened, it's not what it looks like. We can talk about this. We can fix this." "No," I said. "We can't. And I don't want to. You plan to leave me after this trip. You used our anniversary to sleep with another man in the room I paid for. You talked about starting a family with me while texting him that I was clueless. There's nothing to fix, Jenna. There's nothing left." She started crying. The deep, heaving sobs of someone who just realized the ground beneath them is gone. "Grant, please. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. He meant nothing. You mean everything to me." "I've heard those words before," I said. "I've read them, actually, in the texts you sent him. Funny how they sound different when you know they're just a script." I hung up and blocked her number. The next week was a cascade of consequences. Derek Hollis was placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Within 2 weeks, he was terminated for cause the client relationship alone was enough, but the emails with the VP's wife sealed it. The regional VP filed for divorce from Vanessa and reportedly made it clear throughout the bank that Derek Hollis was persona non grata in the industry. Derek's banking license review was flagged, and last I heard, he was working at a car dealership outside Atlanta. His career in finance was over. Jenna hired an attorney who tried to fight the adultery claim. The evidence was overwhelming, and her lawyer knew it. Her attorney advised her to settle. Under Georgia law, my documented proof of her affair barred her from receiving alimony. The house was sold and proceeds split per the court order. But since I'd already secured the liquid assets through my LLC, her share of the remaining estate was modest. She ended up moving back to her parents' house in Columbia, South Carolina. 33 years old, divorced, no savings, and a reputation in tatters because the divorce filing was public record and our mutual friends had done the math. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a message from my brother. He'd seen Jenna's social media. She'd posted a long, emotional statement about toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse, painting herself as the victim. She never mentioned the affair, never mentioned Derek, never mentioned the months of lies. She wrote about how she'd been emotionally neglected and driven into the arms of someone who made her feel valued. The comments were full of supportive strangers who only knew her side. I thought about responding, correcting the record, but I didn't. The people who matter already know the truth. And the people who believe a one-sided story from a stranger on the internet weren't worth my energy. It's been almost 2 years since Cancun. I live in a renovated loft downtown, close enough to the river that I can hear the boats at night. My business has grown. I took on 3 new clients last quarter. I started running again, something I'd given up during the marriage because Jenna thought it was boring. I've been on a few dates, nothing serious, but I'm not in a rush. I spent 7 years building something with someone who was dismantling it behind my back. I'm not eager to repeat the experience. Last month I was having coffee at my usual spot when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. "Grant?" It was Jenna. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "I need to talk to you. I owe you that." "You don't owe me anything," I said. "And I don't need anything from you." There was a pause. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know it doesn't matter now, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." I thought about all the things I could say, the anger I could unleash, the details I could throw in her face. Instead, I just said, "I know you are. Take care of yourself, Jenna." And I hung up. I paid for my coffee, stepped outside into the warm Savannah air, and walked home through the squares, under the oaks and the Spanish moss, past the house we used to share, that now belongs to a young couple with a golden retriever. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt like a man who'd walked through a fire and come out on the other side with nothing burned except what needed to burn. Some people cheat and get away with it. Some people trust and get destroyed by it. But every now and then, someone pays attention, stays calm, and makes sure the truth comes out. Not through rage, not through revenge fantasies, through precision, through patience, through knowing exactly who you are and refusing to let anyone take that from you. That's my story. Not a happy one, but an honest one. And honestly, that's enough.